All right, so time now for me to review the papers for you. I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper front page of the Graphic. Government to release 180 million Ghana cedis to pay NHIS arrears. Comes with a picture of Mr. Sylvester Mensah, the NHIA boss. Also, family calls for inquiry into death after fertility surgery. That story, a bit of it, page 16 for you, so we can get a better understanding of it. And it says that the family of a 34-year-old woman have called for an independent inquiry into circumstances leading to her death after a fertility surgery carried out on her at the Lister Hospital and Fertility Center in Accra. Okay, so if you're interested, you can continue to read. But that young lady in her graduating outfit on the front page of the paper. Ghana Gas resumes full operations. George Sipper, Yankee CEO, Ghana Gas Company, featured on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. Back page, Joliba scare hearts in Accra, but the Phobians qualify on away goals. So you would know if you monitored that game yesterday that Heart lost. But because they had scored more away goals, they got to qualify. Also, Meteor's whitewash Liberia, immigration win at last. We've got a lot of sports coming up right after the newspaper headlines. From the Daily Graphic, I'll move to the Ghanaian Times newspaper, front page of the Times. Ministers mustn't be on boards. Chief Director advises. Some people still cannot understand why ministers are on boards. As in the ministry boards. Amazing, isn't it? Mayor wins Africa Awards. This is getting a lot of people talking, considering cholera was just last year. There are fears of it even this year, with the rains coming down now strongly. Places not cleaned, but hey, maybe with the countries that we're competing with, we were better off. So I guess congratulations to the Accra mayor is appropriate, but he's excited, you know, raising that piece on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. Also, Volta Regional Minister bans Fulani nomads. Fetish priests arrested for stealing cops. Back page of the Times, Meteor spank Liberia. Hearts stumble but qualify, and immigration beats intellectuals. These are the front back page headlines in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. I've got the Daily Guide newspaper now. Front page of the Daily Guide, presidential staffer insults stars, calls them prostitutes. If you've been monitoring Facebook, this was major. Still getting a lot of people talking. 3 MPs step down. Boss clears BDCs of fraud, but a bit of the 3 MPs who have stepped down for you. I'm looking for it. Okay, so it says that 3 incumbent members of parliament in the Eastern region, namely Ofusua Samoa, David Oponkusi and Peter Wiafe Pepra of Kede, Ofuase Ayerebi and Abetifi constituencies respectively, have declared their intentions not to contest again. So they're making way for fresh people now. That should be some good news if people are interested. We know that at least with the Ofuase Ayerebi, Kojo Oponkroma is standing on that. Hopefully he wins. Okay, so that's it for the headlines. Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper this Monday. Let me go to the Chronicle next. Front page of the Chronicle now. 120 to contest Ashanti NPP primaries. Isn't that a bit too many people contesting? But we'll see how it goes. NDC is cruel to business. That's according to the NPP. NDC sack Mohammed's darling boy. That story on page 3. Sam George comes with that headline. So why don't we read a bit to get an understanding of it. It says that the woes of some Nate George, who describes himself as a communication specialist at the presidency, headed by President John Mahama, is far from over after being sued by Ken Oforiatta of Databank famed for a whopping 100 million Ghana cedis for defamation. The Ningo Pram constituency chairman of his own party, the NDC, has also barred him from coming to the constituency to propagate government policies to the branch members. We'll be talking more about this one definitely, but also let's see. The story about NDC cruel to businesses that's attributed to the New Patriotic Party, says the opposition. NPP says President John Dramani Mahama's comments that smart businesses are those that are not laying off workers in this era of fluctuating power supply is insensitive and cruel. You can continue to read. It comes with a picture of the General Secretary of the NDC, Johnson Asiedon Ketsi, and that's on page 2 in the Chronicle newspaper. I've got to move on. What do I have next? Maybe some business. Okay, let me do the Public Agenda newspaper before I move to the business newspapers. The Public Agenda front page: company clears misconceptions. Turkish power deal. Company clears misconceptions. As it says, car power ship, the Turkish company contracted to sell some 450 megawatts of power to Ghana via 2 power vessels over the next 10 years, has explained that its intervention in Ghana's power sector is not an emergency response to the situation the country faces. So you can continue to read details of that. NDC, NPP not committed to fighting corruption, says Vitus Azim. NHIS owes CHAG facilities 80 million Ghana cedis. And matter of government indebtedness to SNIT, Auditor General's report vindicates public agenda. So I want to believe they did a report that was disputed, but it happens, you know, that the accountant, the Auditor General's report has vindicated them. It says that the Auditor General's report currently being scrutinized by the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, and which has ignited a fierce debate both within and outside Parliament, has stated in unequivocal terms that government owes the Social Security and National Insurance Trust to the tune of over 800 million Ghana cedis. Police hospital gets 2 dialysis machines. That is good news for the hospital and indeed for all Ghanaians. Let me move on. I've got the BNFT, the Business and Financial Times newspaper. Front page of the BNFT: ECG to undergo 20-year private care. Story says that government has finally settled on the concession arrangement that will see a private firm operate and manage the electricity company of Ghana for a possible 20 to 25 year period. Should we be jubilating that this is coming out? Would that improve the services of the ECG? Also, 6 foreign firms want stake in ADB. Economy now worth 112 billion Ghana cedis. 2014 growth falls short of expectations. So the Ghana Statistical Service has released the final GDP figures for 2014, which show the country's pace of economic expansion grew by 4%, down from a previous estimate of 4.2%, and making it the lowest economic growth recorded in the last 6 years. Back page: government pays 41.8 million Ghana cedis commitment fees for undisbursed loans. Met's Capital launches first IPO. 6 foreign firms want stake in ADB. A continuation of that from the front page in the BNFT newspaper. I'll do the Business Day newspaper front page. Bank of Ghana reports on ATM charges is bogus, banks declare. So it says that ATM users and some stakeholders in the banking industry are surprised at a recent publication released by the Bank of Ghana on ATM charges in the country, describing it as an incomplete research. The central bank, in a publication which was released in February this year, listed all banks and their ATM charges per transaction. And top on the list of highest Charging banks was ADB, followed by Prudential Bank, SG Ghana, and GT Bank, charging 50 pesos, 40 pesos, and 35 pesos, and 30 pesos, respectively. I'm sure that, you know, when we saw the charges, I don't know if it prompted someone to change their banks, but if you charge me high for the usage of an ATM, I'll definitely change the bank, because that's my main source of withdrawing cash from the bank. Also, over 3 million Ghanaians struggle for food daily. This story says that more than 3 million Ghanaians, majority of whom live in agricultural communities in northern Ghana, struggle against the threat of food insecurity on a daily basis. Back page, toward an alliance of hope and the narrative roots of public policy. You might want to grab the paper and read all the details for yourselves. I've got the Economic Times. I'll come back and do the General Telegraph newspaper. But the Economic Times, front page of the Economic Times, decision on ECG sale imminent. Ghana's growth at slowest pace in 20 years. And Turkish power purchase due in September. I guess we've settled now. The April deadline, it didn't happen. We've moved to September. We're monitoring closely to see if that happens, but can we continue to endure till September? Big question. But let's see, back page. GPHA to introduce terminal operating system at Tema Port. Bank of Ghana institutes measures to enhance corporate governance in financial institutions. If you're interested in any of the headlines, you can grab the paper. Okay, the General Telegraph. 2 jailed for attempting to sell man for 12,000 Ghana cedis while police hunt one Mr. Gambo, who reportedly buys people for ritual sacrifices. Why would you want to sell a human being for 12,000 Ghana cedis? I mean, can you put money, value on a human being? Sometimes when you hear some of these stories, you think, do people have hearts at all? But Mahama moves to resolve disputes at ADB over proposed sale of bank's head office. A lot of things not adding up with this whole sale. So if President Mahama is stepping in, we should be knowing a lot more than what we do, which is not really adding up. Back page of the Telegraph. Sports, Nyantechi satisfied with FCPPL first round. Okay, so that's the First Capital Plus Premier League first round. We're told that the president of the GFA is satisfied. I've got a scandal. Lots of papers coming up on a Monday morning like this one. So I'll do 3 more papers and it will be a wrap. We'll come back with sports. Okay, so the New Statesman newspaper front page. Full report of EC Reforms Committee. In this edition, also Ajekum promises highest ever vote for Nanado in Iswojaman. Mavis Nkansa writes high in Ifija East NPP primaries. Tackling the problem of doom, so has Mahama been smart? The NPP is asking, and they're condemning presidential insensitivity. Akufo-Addo charges president to address workers' concerns with deeds. And then I'll move on to the scandal. Front page of the scandal. Don't be deceived by the plush infrastructures. Ghana is still in a mess and broke, the paper is reporting. Ghana's fantasy coffins make waves worldwide. And SAC DVLA boss Nunu Mensah seem to be advocating. And the T4 project's bidding scandal. Officials to enjoy $38 million booty. It comes with a question mark and a picture of Kekofi, who is the VRA boss. All right, back page. The paper also says that BNI probes foreign affairs staff over diplomatic passports fraud. So that will be it. Lots of papers. You can go to the newsstands now and grab any of the papers and read them in details. The sports papers, definitely Mayweather, money, making headlines in all the sport papers. We've got detailed sport coming your way here on the AM show right after this. Stay with us. If you want to comment on any of the stories that we've done so far or communicate something to us, would love for you to go to facebook.com/joynews on TV.